All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're here today. My name is Kristopher. I'm a staff attorney here at Nevada Legal Services. I am joined by one of our advocates here, Marina Rit-Bloom. Marina, say hi.
Hi, my name is Marina, and I am an advocate at Nevada Legal Services.
And what kind of stuff do you do, Marina? It's not at the office.
I didn't hear you.
Oh yeah, what kind of cases do you take and help with?
So I handle unemployment cases, whether it's helping to file for unemployment or file for PUA. I assist with appeal hearings. I assist with appeals to the Board of Review, and then possibly to petition for judicial review, which would be district court.
Yeah, and I do, as a staff attorney here, I do that as well. So Marina and I partner with each other and bounce ideas off each other about these continuing PUA and regular unemployment. But we're here to talk about the end of the PUA and federal extended benefits programs here. But the first thing I wanted to talk about here, I mean, at the federal level where these programs come from, it doesn't it doesn't seem there's a willingness to extend them beyond where they're going to currently expire on September 6th. And Marina, I just kind of wanted your thoughts on how you felt, like based on what you're observing with the clients that we have here in the your interactions with Peter, whether that's a good idea or whether you think that there should be some type of assistance even going forward.
Well, whether I think is a good idea or not, I don't know how that's relevant that is, but I just feel that it will not be extended. That people need to know that if they haven't filed already for PUA, that they should do so immediately. They can backdate, file a retroactive claim. But if you haven't done so, like I said, you have to do that immediately. I'm kind of torn. I feel that, PUA has been available and maybe we need to return to what we used to be like, and people have to go to work. And I know there's issues about people are collecting a PUA because it pays more than a job at a minimum wage. So there's issues with that, but
yeah, I know
there's a lot of people,
there's a lot of people that we obviously still have that are still hurting out here, and right, they're still waiting for benefits, or they're still trying to get their life together, because I think it's just very hard, right, once you get knocked down financially, it's right, it's harder to get up and get, right, recover from that. And I think even after all this is even over, if it ends September 6th, or if it ends, if they decide to extend at some point, I think it's unfortunate that everybody has to, like the people in our community have to go through this, and it's just, right, it's not a long, right, there's not a long-term solution to it. Like, we even have chaps and we have those things, but at the end, the problem's gonna ultimately be that people are gonna have to find solutions to their more long-term solutions to their financial and especially and housing situations. And at Nevada Legal Services, we can only do so much. So, but with that being said, I just wanted to go over what with that kind of important information about as of right now, as far as we know in the law, since Congress doesn't think like there's a willingness in Congress to pass anything to extend it. I just wanted to provide the information on what these dates are. So, because even though the program ends on September 6th, that's the congressional date, the last week that DETR will pay benefits is September 4th, because that's the last full unemployment week before the program ends. At this point, what that means is, so what's federal pandemic unemployment compensation, what that is, that's also known as the extra $300 people get a week on either PUA or regular unemployment. That will end September 4th. PUA, pandemic unemployment assistance, also known as PUA, will also end September 4th. And on the regular unemployment side, there's a program called EEUC. Some of you may know it as EUC, but it's Pandemic or Emergency Unemployment Compensation. Again, this is another federal program that was implemented with the CARES Act for people who have regular unemployment eligibility, that will end September 4th as well. There's a third extended program on regular unemployment side, which is the state extended benefits, sometimes known as SEB or EB. That will continue for 1 week later and end on September 11th. Now, I think the important thing that people need to know here about these programs ending is there's no sunsetting date. What that means is that on those dates, the programs, there will be no, like if you have credits in your unemployment or PUA claim, or you have weeks of benefits left, you cannot collect after that date. So you at that point, the benefits will just expire. It's at the term they use is the cliff, and it will just fall off. And unfortunately, you won't have, unless you have your old weeks prior to the end date. If you need a back date, that's what they can pay you on, but they can't pay anything going forward. I think another important thing about PUA is that DEDR is required. If you have not, if you know somebody or someone has not applied for PUA and they may have eligibility, DEDR is required to continue accepting PUA applications through October 6th of 2021. What that means is, again, if someone applies on October 6th, they can backdate from the time they potentially became eligible, but nothing will be paid after September 4th of 2021. And I think, right, I know like a lot of people are aware of these programs and have been in the news, but there's definitely been some people I've encountered recently who recently learned about this program and like PUA program in the last couple of months, or they were aware of the program and didn't think they were eligible, but then consulted with either somebody or someone at our organization and realized they may have eligibility there. So those are the important dates. It's just unfortunate that there's no sunsetting. We would have liked to have some type of sunsetting where people can kind of ease out of these programs, to make, so they can make the right, personal and financial decisions. But right now, these are just the dates. So like for everybody out there who are relying on these programs, guys will need to, try to figure out what you what you're gonna do after these end dates, because there's not going to be anything further left. Again, there's also, if you're behind on rent, if you haven't applied for a CHAPS rental assistance, that may relieve some of your burden. So if you haven't done that yet, that's still available to everybody. And I think, right, if you haven't done so, that might be something worth exploring, and maybe it'll take some pressure off the financial situation. But I also understand that's not going to solve everyone's problem ultimately. So, all right. Any thoughts on that, Marina, about these end dates? Any other benefits?
Just really quickly, going off unemployment, top of unemployment, but for people who are getting evicted and they are not receiving their PUA or unemployment for whatever reason, under Assembly Bill 486, if you have an active CHAP application is pending, you can still avoid an eviction for the next 2 years. So it's very important. If you are being evicted, please go to social services and apply for CHAP. You have to be consistent. You have to reply to emails. You have to upload your documents. You can't just apply and let it sit. And if you do have an active application or pending application, you can submit that along with your tenant's affidavit if you're being evicted, and that should prevent the eviction, like I said, for the next 2 years. So it's very important to do that. And the other thing is, if you haven't done so already, please give your landlord a CDC declaration, as well as apply for CHAP.
And I think, that's important to bring up, right? I think Marina has a very good point that, all these PUA and rental assistance, they're all, they're all separate things going on, but they're all intertwined as, right?
Yeah.
Right. You need, you need your PUA, or you need your extended benefit or unemployment to pay your rent, but you can't, right? It's either delayed or ending, and now you can't pay your rent, and now what are you going to do? So, so it's right. So even though these are separate legal issues, they are intertwined financially, and right? It's just, unfortunately, it's just the nature of what, right, the state of what's going on right now. So another thing we want to talk about, with that being said, I know there's probably some of you out there who have been waiting still to get benefits. You guys have, right, you've been denied, you have a disqualification, you're waiting for an appeals hearing. And so, and we get a lot of questions about when, right, what does an appeals hearing look like, right? And, right, and I think it's important, I think it might be important for those of you who have these upcoming hearings to like at least get an idea now of what you're going to be facing and what this process look like. Marina, Marina, you have a lot of experience with this yourself. Do you mind like talking about what your experiences are on the PUA appeals?
Not at all. So some very important things you need to know. If you receive a disqualification, you need to appeal that disqualification within 11 days. There are exceptions. If you have a good cause for not appealing disqualification within 11 days, let's say you were traveling out of state, whatever, you were sick, you were in the hospital, whatever the reason is, if you have a good cause for not appealing in time, you can still appeal, but you do have to have a very good cause for the late appeal. But that's on that. So once you receive a disqualification, you file an appeal. You're supposed to be given a hearing in a relatively short amount of time. The problem is that's not happening. So you file an appeal, your appeal is sitting there for months and months and months and months. And it says appeal is awaiting initial review and there's nothing happening. So there is something you can do about that. If you requested an appeal for months ago and you still haven't received an appeal hearing, is you can file a writ. And what the writ does, it forces them to set a hearing. And I have been very successful in that. Every client that I've assisted in filing a writ has received a hearing probably within 2 to 3 weeks. So that's something that's very successful. The other issue where a writ might be appropriate is if they started paying you benefits and then the benefits stopped without a hearing. So you can also file a writ in that instance as well. And what, in my experience, what's happening is once we file a writ on stop payment, they schedule a hearing. So that's an option. What I really want to talk about is there's some people out there that so to be eligible for PUA, there's 2 criteria. You first have to be ineligible for regular state unemployment, which means that if you filed your PUA claim and you have not yet applied for unemployment, you have to do that and you have to get a disqualification from unemployment first. So that's the first criteria. The second criteria is you have to have a COVID-related reason for being unemployed. And what that means is you either lost your job as a result of the pandemic. So there's quite a few of them. You either lost your job or you got sick or you had COVID. There's a list of them. And I think in the beginning, if you lost your job, let's say prior to the pandemic, and then right before the pandemic, you were looking for a job, there is a COVID-related reason that's similar to that. Something to the effect of if you don't have a job or you're supposed to return to a job. And a lot of people assume that to mean that if you're in the middle of looking for a job, that is a COVID-related reason. So in my experience, how DEEDR is determining it is that you have to actually prove that you either received an offer of employment letter and received a letter rescinding your offer of employment to actually be successful at an appeal hearing. That is DEEDR's interpretation. That's not exactly our interpretation. And so if that is your case and you're currently being denied because you do not meet the CARES Act, that's what that means. So you can take it to the appeal hearing. Like I said, the way they're interpreting it, the way the referees are interpreting it, that if you can't establish that you had proof of employment, people that I've assisted at appeal hearings are not able to prevail at the appeal hearing. So then we would file an appeal to the Board of Review. At this point, we're still waiting to hear back from the Board of Review on their opinion, whether they're going to reverse it or confirm it. So I don't really have a lot of statistics on that yet. But if the Board of Review confirms that you are not eligible, then the third step would be to file a petition for judicial review. And then that would be in district court. And that's something that the judge would need to make a decision on. So that's been my experience. Can't think of anything else I want to say.
It's important to let people know that, right, this appeal, the initial PUA appeals hearing, the one that's going to be scheduled by a referee, this is your one and only opportunity to provide any testimony, additional documents, because if you end up getting denied by the referee in their decision, you're not going to be allowed to bring up anything new on subsequent appeals, and you're not going to be able to provide additional documents or evidence that you think should have been part of the hearing. So it's very important that when you're doing this hearing, that you get all your paperwork in order, get all your documents in order, and right, and organize them and upload them. And I think this is the key here, especially with PUA, is that in the PUA portal, there are two places where you can upload documents. So when you initially put your claim, there's a tab that says provide additional documents. Those documents do not reach the appeal hearing. Right, so this may be redundant for some of you, but if there's a document that you uploaded before and you think this referee at the hearing needs to see it or should examine it or look at it, you have to upload it again. And where you upload that is if you go to your appeals tab, on the bottom right of the appeal, there's a link that says upload documents. And then you will need to upload it again. If you want to verify it was uploaded, there's not a direct link, but what you would do is click on add contacts, and it gives a summary of everybody that's listed, witnesses, counsel, right, your own contact information. Like another important thing, verify your number is still correct. In case it's changed, or in case right, you're not able to use that phone anymore. And but also will be in there is all the documents that were uploaded. So it's important to get the information together, right? And I think when people state hearing, I think they think of what they traditionally view as court. What what you see on TV, or if you've ever been, right, you've been in court. There's a judge, and lawyers will speak, and the judge will listen. And this experience with they call it a appeals hearing, but it's nothing like that. Would you agree, Marina?
So at the appeals hearing, they've all been done telephonically. The referee will usually call our client, and then call whoever is representing that client. And the referee will go over the documents that are being admitted. One very important thing. When your hearing scheduled, you will get a case appeal file in your message center. That is very important to look through, because that is what the referee is going to rely upon during your hearing. So you need to go through it really carefully. There is one document that has the case notes that the dear representatives wrote. Very important that you look at those case notes to see what it says, because I've had several times where the case notes may be a little bit different than the application, or there was some discrepancy in the application, or you didn't understand what you were doing when you applied, and they will disqualify you based on fraud or fraudulently answering your questions. It's very important. Read all the case notes that were taken by the dear representatives. See if anything you don't agree with. And during your appeal hearing, you gotta let the referee know that on this day, this was said, this was not true, that on this day, this was said, and maybe just go through it. If there's a discrepancy, you please tell the referee about the discrepancy, whether you answered the question incorrectly, whether you misunderstood the question, because you will be disqualified based on that without the referee even listening to the merits of your claim.
Right, yes, you're gonna have to, if there's inconsistencies, right?
Yeah.
It's common, it's very common that there's
Yeah.
inconsistencies, right? And like what, right, what Dieter thought versus what your answer was, and right? And they don't, when you're filling out this application, you don't know what you were thinking.
Right.
The application process, even like for the most educated people, if you don't deal with this day in and day out, like Marina and I have done for over a year now,
Yeah.
you're not going to, some of these questions, you're not even going to understand how you're answering. We have the knowledge now because, we have the, right, because we've just been dealing with it so long, and we've had to deal with these issues about trying to interpret what a certain question means or what they're really asking for,
Right.
and what information they want. And so, and that's not fraud, that's a mistake, right?
Right.
Right, you're not trying to, right?
Right.
That's misunderstanding the system, that's misunderstanding the question. Maybe the question is asked poorly, and right, so you end up answering something else, like right, in a different way. So, right, and so those are just mistakes. That's not fraud. I think the other thing here with these PUA appeals hearings is that it's really, right, as I always tell clients, the easiest way I can reference this is this: it's Judge Judy, right? If you've ever seen like People's Court or Judge Judy, this is what you're gonna face. The referee is Judge Judy, and what it really is that you get placed under oath, and this referee is gonna start peppering you with like questions about, right, why, right, why did you apply? What were you doing? What was going on in your life prior to like the COVID-19 pandemic that caused you to apply for PUA? So you have to be right. You have to be ready for that, because a lot of the times it's really this, right. You're good, right? You're just going to be answering questions most of the time. Now at the end, you have a chance to offer, right. You have a chance to kind of offer your summary or offer, a final closing argument or add anything else. But these, right, these, for anybody, these PUA appeal hearings, any hearing, legal hearing proceeding like this, it's nerve-wracking, right? So it's very important to be prepared, that like to understand this is what you're going to be facing, and it's not just going to be, you as the claimant sitting there and you just get to sit there and speak and say whatever you want to say or need to say, and the referee's just going to listen to you. It's you're right.
Right.
So, right. So it's right. So it's very important to just kind of mentally prepare for that type of hearing. At that, we're right. And then you obviously will get a decision, and we touched on subsequent appeals if you're denied. Right. Marina talked about going to the Board of Review. And right, like I said, as we mentioned before, you can't introduce any new evidence to the Board of Review. What they're going to examine is the record, whatever documents were submitted in the case, and the transcript of your hearing. So they will get, they will get like a recording or a transcript of your hearing, and then they are going to, right, if they're going to review, they will review that. Now there's a caveat here, I think that's very important, is that at the Board of Review level, if you were never paid benefits at all, the Board of Review is not required to examine the case at all. They could just agree with the referee and dismiss it. And that, at that point, you'll just have to go on petition for judicial review. The law only requires the Board of Review to review cases where payment has been made, and then, right, and then, the person was denied benefits, and now either they have an overpayment or like some type of, so as long if the claim was like never paid, the Board of Review under the administrative code is not mandated to review any of the referee's decision. So Board of Reviews are very hard. They're very difficult to do. I mean, there's a third level of appeal, which is going to district court. But in my opinion, the Board of Review is probably the hardest level to prevail on, right? So, right. So, I mean, that doesn't mean you don't try, and you don't try to put on the best case and try to sit there and explain what happened at your hearing and why you think the referee's decision is wrong. But it's very hard to prevail there. If you don't prevail at the Board of Review, then we talk about petition for judicial review. And this is not something we recommend you do without like either some like legal assistant or like consulting consulting an attorney, because the board of it's very lengthy. It's all the formalities of court apply. And the court is not going to be sympathetic to you if you file something wrong or you do something wrong or you fail to like serve the appropriate parties, even though you are, if you're going to do it on your own as a pro se petitioner, the court has no sympathy for this, right? They expect that if you're going to do it by yourself, that you're going to understand the rules and procedures of the court. And Dieter has no hesitation on challenging a mistake at this level, right? Even if it's the most minor mistake, they will right. So right, whether that should be like that, that's a whole nother issue for another day. Pro se's, right? Pro se's don't know the law or procedures like attorneys do, and it's not whether it's fair or not. That's a whole nother issue. But at this point, that's the reality. So if anybody of you are at that level or contemplating that type of legal action as a petition, we highly recommend you consult somebody. We're here at Nevada Services to consult with that, and help you guide you through the process, and give you the appropriate forms and information to do it. So, and Marina, do you have anything else to add about like your experiences on petition?
On the petition?
Yeah, like on when people file their petition for judicial review.
The judicial review? Yeah,
no. No, you don't, right? Okay, yeah. I want to make sure, because you have a lot of experience, not a lot, but like some experience actually is just assisting people file, and I was just, if there was any tips that are mistakes that you've seen people make, right?
Just know it's a very lengthy process, and doesn't happen overnight. That's pretty much.
Yeah, so we won't make it about that today. Yeah, so the final thing I think we want to talk about, the issue out here, is the dreaded ID. Right, and I know there's a lot of people who are stuck in this for whatever reason, right? And the ID, the verifying their identity through this, third-party vendor, and it's very, right, and we get a lot of calls about it, and it's very frustrating, especially for the people who have, who've already been approved, and they have legitimate claims, and everything that's been, so far was going great, and then all of a sudden, this ID need popped up, Dieter decided to put this as a requirement in 2021. To be, to be fair, the Department of Labor, the U.S. Department of Labor, who oversees PUA and unemployment compensation, did make this a requirement. So, it's not necessarily Dieter, arbitrarily Dieter just did it. There was orders from them to implement ID, but as far as the rollout and implementation and having people do it, it's been a whole frustrating level of I don't even want to say, but the point is that I think we get this all the time. Wouldn't you agree, Marina? To just get several clients who come in and that's all they have as a problem.
So the biggest problem with ID.me is you have to upload your passport, your driver's license. You have to take a picture of it with your phone, and a lot of times when you try to submit the document back into, first of all, you need to, when ID.me, you have to set up a username and password. So it's separate from PUA. And you have to upload your driver's license or your passport. And if you don't have the phone technology that's necessary, it doesn't take a very good photo. So when you try to upload it back into the ID.me, it rejects it. So then the next thing is they ask you for your phone to allow your phone to scan your face. And we've tried with all our phones and have not been successful. The phones do not have the technology that's needed for ID.me. So what we suggest is go to Job Connect, use their computers, or go to the library and use their computers. Because using your cell phone is going to be very frustrating, and there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to complete the process. So don't even waste time. Just go straight to Job Connect or the library and just get it done.
Get it done. Yeah, I think, you know, right, if you make one good faith effort and it's just not working with your phone or the technology you have at home, I don't, you know, right, I think, in my opinion, I think you have to try to, like, right, use these other resources, because I think you're right. I don't know, like, right, again, I disadvantages people, like, right, you know, right, people, like, there's a lot of people out there who don't even have, like, they don't have computers at home, they rely on their cell phones, and, you know, if you're not, like, you know, right, you don't have, like, you know, like, the most, like, recent phone, right, it's just gonna be, it's just not gonna work.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you have, like, right, and there's other minor issues, especially when it wants you to scan your face,
Yeah,
like, the lighting's wrong, change the
yeah,
angle.
yeah,
This,
yeah.
it's like, you know, right, and it's just frustrating to do, and then at some point, it's like, well, no, now you have to go wait for this
Live
video, like,
adjudication for 5
right,
hours. Yes,
who knows how long
yes,
that's gonna be, right?
yes.
Because, you know, and, you know, right, who, you know, right, you know, I know, like, all of us are frustrated, you know, right, all of you guys out there are frustrated in that, like, but you don't have time to sit out there 8 hours waiting for someone to get on to verify who you are on
Yeah.
video, right?
And-
So, yeah, go ahead.
And that's where it's taking. It's taking anywhere between 5 to 8 hours. So you have to sit on your phone until you get a live adjudicator to look at your face and say that you are who you are.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, like, I mean, so the resources that Marina mentioned, which are Job Connect in the public library, these are actually resources that Dieter had suggested, especially the Job Connect. So I mean, I think we hold them to their word. If they're going to allow
Yeah.
the people to use the Job Connect office for this purpose, I think we need to hold them to that, because, you know, at the end, Dieter is responsible for paying these benefits and, you know, making a seamless process. And I just, you know, right, it clearly has not been the case over the last 17, 18 months. And it, like, right, even though this all ends on, you know, right, for some of you on September 4th and some of you on September 11th, these, like, issues are going to continue, right, regardless of that. And that's the unfortunate part. Now, and I just want to put one more other thing out there about ID issues. They, on these notices, it says if you can't do it, call the phone number and you can go through traditional adjudication. Be careful of that, because I think you're right. My opinion on that, what that's code for, is that you're going to have to go to a PUA appeal hearing, right? And you already know, like, right, if you've been, like, anybody
Yeah.
who knows appeal hearing knows you've been waiting months, right? Some people
Yeah.
have been waiting over a year for, you know, right, for a hearing now. I'm sure out there have been waiting over a year now. And so that's what they mean by when they say traditional adjudication. It would be going to a hearing, and it's, I think, you know, right, just amount of Dieter's resources, I think it's just a waste of time, because, you know, it's all telephonic. So what are you going to, you know, right, what are they, what's the referee going to ask, right? Are you who you
Yeah.
say you are, right? Are you, you know, are you Jane Doe? Oh, yeah, and what's your response going to be on the phone? Oh, I'm not Jane Doe. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't even know what, like, right, when they say traditional adjudication like that, I don't even see how it's doing anything more productive, right? Like, right, and you're going to wait several months just to do that.
Right.
So, all right. I think that's, and if there's any questions, we're willing to take some questions, but I think that concludes anything substantive we have to talk about. And before I do that though, Marina, is there anything else you feel like we should discuss?
Nope, not unless somebody has some specific questions you can answer.